Hello, lovely humans. I hope you're doing great. It's so lovely to see you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think we're going to have a lot of fun today, so we should get going quite quickly because there is so much to get through. So first things first, if you are a regular Marketing Meetup attendee, you will well know the screen by now. But the first thing I'll ask you to do, because I can see there's folks in the chat feature right now who have been so wonderful and popped where you're watching from, like Joe Royce in Amersham right now and Laura in Kent. But some of these messages are presently going to hosts and panelists only. So Chantel, I'm calling you out. Your message went to hosts and panelists only. So if you're in the chat feature right now and you've got a toggle which presently says to hosts and panelists, switch that to everyone so everyone can see your messages. And then once you have pop where you're watching from, just like Abby, Helen, Zoe, Emma, Alex, Paul, James, and way more of you have done. It's so lovely, and thank you for taking the time today. Today, we have a returning legend coming to speak at the Marketing Meetup. This is Ross's third time, I think, and actually, I think Ross is the first person or the quickest person between one webinar and the next to return to speak to the Marketing Meetup. And the context for today is we had Ross speak quite recently during our AI season. And like the number one comment that was left in that chat feature, that amazing chat feature, which Rachel, Sharon, Dina, Alice, Arifa and Kim have all contributed to in the last couple of seconds, was that Ross needs to come back and do a part two. So that's exactly what we're doing today. And what we're doing is we're taking your questions from all of those 4 sessions from the previous AI season, and we're going to rattle through as many as that we can in a high pace, hopefully practical, hopefully a lot of fun session that you are very, very important to be part of. Before we get going, I want to say a big thank you to our featured sponsor this week, who are Frontify. Frontify enable you to keep your brand consistent. So what they do is they take all of your database, all of your assets, and they put them into one place so your team can keep them in one space and keep that consistency, which, as you all know, because you are smart marketers, is really important when you turn up as your brand in a consistent fashion. So Frontify have released a report, which is about AI and creativity. It's ungated. You just need to scan that QR code. It'll head straight there, straight to the PDF. It's a fabulous resource. They're interviewing like the head of creative for Canva and people like that. So if you want that resource from Frontify, head right there. Also, a big thank you to Exclaimer, Sticky Beak, Planable, Cambridge Marketing College, and Redgate. They keep on supporting the community, which means we can keep on bringing these sessions to you. Now, that's my introduction done. You guys have already been absolute heroes in the chat feature today, so thank you for doing that. Please keep that going throughout the duration of today's session. And thank you to Nicole for saying thank you to the wonderful sponsors. That's really fabulous. So we've got 19 questions on the list that Ross and I put together. We've got 54 minutes at the moment, plus any more that go into the Q&A throughout the duration of today's session. So let's get going. Ross, first question that we picked out from the community. What would your advice be to juniors or new people in the industry? How should they be approaching AI?
Yeah, Joe, thanks for inviting me back. Super excited to be back. What an amazing community. Thank you all so much for the love. My first recommendation to anybody who's new in the wonderful world of AI is to embrace the same thing that brought you here, the same thing that made you decide that you were going to take time out of your day to listen to us talk. It's that curiosity around what and how this technology of AI can influence your life. And once you have a default state around curiosity, my recommendation then is to go into various places where you can get the information that's going to allow you to win consistently. So what does that mean? It means if you're a Reddit user, you're going to subscribe to our ChatGPT. You're going to find ChatGPT subreddits that are dedicated to prompt engineering and writing great prompts. You're going to do a little bit of self-research to identify maybe some Slack channels where people are talking about artificial intelligence on a regular basis, and you're going to join them. Or maybe you're going to be the person within your space who says, I'm going to start a WhatsApp group chat where every day we're just going to talk about AI. And then you invite some of your colleagues, you invite some of your peers, maybe you invite some people in this marketing meetup session today to join you in that Slack or in that WhatsApp group, and you guys just share and have conversations. You start to follow and create lists on X where you're subscribed to a handful of people who are talking about AI agents or talking about AI. That would be kind of the starting point for my opinion. Go and find newsletters. It's very easy to go to Google and type in the best AI newsletters that you should subscribe to, and then subscribe to them. And then from there, you're going to get that information directly delivered to your inbox. And over time, because you're consuming this information and you have a network of people and a community around you who are talking about this technology and the shifts happening, you're going to improve and elevate yourself. And then the second and final piece of this all is to be able to take it and apply it to your work. Now, everyone is in a different situation as it relates to their employment. Some of you are self-employed, some of you might work for an organization. If you're self-employed, then you have complete control over your ability to use AI in your work. And I would encourage you to do it. If you are not self-employed and you are in an organization that embraces and celebrates AI, then congratulations, well done, go do it. But if you're not in an organization that embraces AI, then my recommendation to you would be to start something on the side, a small project, a small experiment with AI that you can start to dabble and play with AI in your own kind of playground, so to speak. And what's going to happen is you're going to learn and you're going to build a skill set that will give you the ability to, one, speak more confidently internally around how they should use AI, or set yourself up to get another job at a better place where they actually do embrace AI.
Love that last line. Thank you, mate. And it's funny because when we speak about the marketing meetup community, we never speak about demographics really. What we speak about is psychographics, and right. By which I mean, that curiosity. I mean, not only is the community amazing, but I'd like to think we're a curious bunch who sort of explore these things. So as you rightly said at the beginning, that natural curiosity will take folks a long way. I'm very high on the community right now. Like, they're just a bunch of very incredible people. So thank you for being that. Fabulous. Thank you for that opening. I love that. And that curiosity piece, that positivity, I think is already a counterbalance to some of the negativity that we could see when discussing this topic. So let's go to the second one, the second question. And regretfully, when I sent through the list to Ross, I didn't attach people's names because I didn't get permission from folks to get specifically name them here. So I don't have names, but if you recognize your question, and I hope it helps you today. So the question is, for someone or a company who isn't using AI, although I did try to help it write a blog post last week, where would you suggest to start, i.e. programs, and for what tasks, etc.?
Yeah, so there's two tools that should be in every marketer's toolkit right now. One is ChatGPT and the other is Claude, or Cloud, depending on your accent. These two tools are, in my opinion, the starting point for everyone. You can pick and choose which one you like the most, but both are good. Claude does have a better LLM today. They recently just rolled in a new version, and it's faster, it has better responses, things like that. But at the end, arguably a better user experience. So when it comes down to it, what are some things that you can do with these things? My first reco would be that you actually start by understanding what you should not use these things for. So what I see a lot of people use AI for that drives me insane is a replication of human work that is strategic, human work that actually requires a level of understanding of the nuance in the culture of humans, or the ability to do things in real time and understand data sets that these LLMs haven't actually been trained on. What do I mean by that? So if you go to AI and you ask it to develop a strategy for you, it's probably not going to create a great strategy. If you go to AI and you ask it to identify 500 startups that you should connect with and the names of their CEOs as well as their emails, it's probably going to give you a bunch of fake emails. It's probably going to give you wrong names. It's not going to give you accurate info. If you go to an LLM and you're like, I want you to do keyword research across all of these different landing pages and identify like what is the demand for this query, you're going to get fake data. I did a test on ChatGPT where I was like, hey, ChatGPT, pretend that we have a pickleball company, and what subreddits should we sponsor to get people to buy our pickleball rackets or whatever? ChatGPT gave me 5 responses. The first one was the subreddit called Our Pickleball, which does exist. Then they gave pickleball tips, pickleball strategy, pickleball picks. These were some of them. So I said, cool, this is amazing. Like, look at this research that ChatGPT gave me. Then I go out and I actually go to Reddit and I type in these communities, and it turns out that each of them have one subscriber. One subscriber. There's no one in these communities. They don't, like, they're not things. So don't make the mistake of assuming that ChatGPT and LLMs can do all of the things that we can do. It doesn't have that capability. It doesn't have the proprietary data. Those things don't exist. All right. Now, once you understand that, there are things that it can do extremely well. One of my favorite use cases is to upload a report, upload a PDF, something that is in depth. You could upload the entire Great Gatsby and upload it to ChatGPT or Claude and be like, can you identify all of the funny jokes within this book? And then it will identify the few jokes that exist. So now imagine that from a business lens. You start to download the transcripts from all of the looms that you've recorded, and you upload those transcripts and you say, hey, ChatGPT, can you turn these looms into a standard operating procedures guide that takes people through the process that I go through to do a certain task? That's when the magic happens, because now you can pass that SOP along with your looms to new colleagues, with peers, to your own community, whatever, and they can start to follow your task. Or you say, I'm going to jump on a podcast, I'm going to jump on a webinar, and I'm going to talk about my stuff. And then after you're done, you take the transcript again, you upload it to these tools, and you say, turn what I talked about into a blog post. And then once you get that, don't make the mistake that most people do, which is copy, paste, press, publish. Now I want you to now bring all of your expertise, bring all of your unique lived experience, and apply that to the piece that ChatGPT just created. Create an intro that doesn't start within the ever-evolving digital landscape. Change that. Cut it out and speak as you would as a human, so you can hook people in and apply AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. Apply that in your intro, and then add in some imagery, add in some third-party quotes, make it an amazing piece, and then ship that. Another thing that you can do with these tools is, let's say you have people on your team who are running webinars all the time or are doing podcast interviews. Take those podcasts, upload them to an AI like Claude or ChatGPT, and be like, hey, can you identify for me 5 moments within these interviews where we should chop it up and turn it into a vertical video that's going to go out on LinkedIn or social media and be shared? Nice. And here's another pro tip. Tell ChatGPT or tell Claude to pretend that they are Ross Simmonds. Give it a persona. Give it a persona, because at that moment, it's now going to go into its little brain and it's going to think, how would Ross Simmonds approach this? It's going to read, create once, distribute forever. It's going to grab my book and like understand my thinking around distribution. And then it's going to give you the moments that you should chop up based off of that. And you can tell it to be specific. Give me the timestamps. Tell me what the intro should be. Give me a few ideas on what the caption should be for these pieces. That is where ChatGPT will be able to support you and give you some great wins. So that was a long answer to a short question, but I hope there's some nuggets in there that can help folks.
Right, absolutely. There really is. And, I wouldn't consider myself a complete novice on these platforms, but there was stuff that I could take away right there. Awesome. Let's also acknowledge the chat feature, which you've started off, I'm afraid, a pickleball / pickle bar chat. So people have been going rogue. So,
I might have said pickle bar. Who knows? That's the acting. Y'all just don't know what I'm saying. That's...
So we got in the pickle, as Dean says. Very good. So let's take the third question, which is kind of starting to go over the ground which you just covered, but we're going to ask it in a slightly different way because this question is more about prompting.
Yes.
So this question asks, I'd like to use AI to help write blog content, and I've tried several different platforms. However, I'm finding the copy it's churning out really vague, very fluffy, and overly superlative, and just lacking expert opinion / interest. Is there anything I could be doing better in my prompts? Now, I'd suggest that you've probably covered quite a lot of the ground in your previous answer, but is there anything here?
There is. So there's a few different tools that you can use that will make your life a lot easier. Like one of the things that I encourage people to do is recognize like the AI is built on the back of all of the human content that has ever been created. And because there's a lot of us, there's a lot of bad content because not everybody is a copywriter, right? And because not everybody is a copywriter, we have some content that's just bad. So you're going to get average content from an AI tool. Today, you fast forward 5 years, I think we're going to be in a different world. But today we're going to get average content. So how do you make it better? I think you need to start with intentionally crafting prompts that are very specific and not average in nature, right? Like we have a piece, I'm going to link to it called about prompt engineering that is all about the actual concept of prompt engineering. And the way that I would think about it, if I was trying to craft a blog post, is how can I give a brief and a rundown to the AI that is so in depth that there's no room for error? And the way that you should treat it is the same way that you would ideally brief a writer on your team. So you're not just going to say, hey, ChatGPT, can you write me a blog post about marketing automation? That's not what you're going to do. Instead, you're going to, and I'm going to get very tactical on this. The prompt that I would use would be more like a chained command. So I would start with one initial prompt where I'm saying, hey, ChatGPT, hey, Claude, you are a digital marketing expert who specializes in SEO. The reason why I'm saying that is because I wanted to use best practices for digital marketing and SEO. You have been hired by, and then I'm going to insert the brand name. So now they go out and they start to understand the brand. A brand that loves to create content that goes into these three categories: educational content, engaging content, and very in-depth content. So now I'm giving it a few parameters to work with. Then I would say, please develop for me a brief that would cover a blog post that is 2,500 words, considered one of the best in class assets, and incorporates a blend between thought leadership ideas from third parties, as well as real world examples and practical advice. And then I would say, bring that to life for me. So now I've got the brief. So ChatGPT Claude is going to develop a brief for me. At this point, the brief might have some holes. Continue to have that conversation. Say, can you add this? Can you modify this? Can you adjust this? But you have a brief. Then your next prompt is going to be, great. Thank you so much for bringing this. You always be nice to your AI. I don't want it to come back to life someday and actually come and get me. So I'm going to say thanks so much. And then I'm going to have a prompt that actually says to the AI, I want you to pretend that you are a writer for insert great publication that has your voice and your tone, etc. And you specialize in ensuring that your content is always top notch. Your intros follow this formula, AIDA. You always conclude with an inspirational call to action. For example, these are two call to actions that you might want to use. When you dive into this brief, make sure that you're including third-party resources and things like that, and then ask it to fill in the brief. And what you're going to find is that it's going to do a much better job than if you just started with, hey, can you write me a blog post on this title idea? And then once you have that, most people would say, let's press publish and call it a day. Nope. You're now going to edit that piece, modify it, adjust it, add your own experience, and then take it from a 8.5 to a 10 because you want to create something that's great.
I love that. And you know, I mean, this isn't necessarily the focus of today's session, but your whole methodology, right? I mean, you've got the book behind you. By the way, right. Ross asked me to plug the book, but I mean, like Ross's whole methodology, you know, create once, distribute forever. So like, right. You're not going to distribute something that you think is a 6. You know, yeah. you want to be at your 10, so you right. feel like you can speak about it again and again and again and again. So yeah. That's you know.
And I want to call it Demi's comment. Demi mentioned that oftentimes it will forget. Most recently, the most recent version of ChatGPT, they just rolled out memory. So you are 100% spot on. AI 2 months ago, forgot everything. It was very, very quick to forget. But now there's this memory segment that when you're using ChatGPT, you will notice it will say stored in memory. So you want it to use that functionality. I think you might have to be on a paid version, so I will throw that out there. But there is a memory feature that now stores it. There's also a tool called Jasper, which we use at Foundation, which allows you to upload brand guidelines and like the requirements of your tools up front, which is extremely valuable, in my opinion, for brands. So I would encourage you to check that out as well. We have, again, another guide that is built all around how to use Jasper. I would encourage you to read that if you're trying to figure it out. But the templates and the brand voice guidelines in there give you the ability to really control the way that this story goes. So what you can do with Jasper is you can actually upload your website URL. It will scrape your content, identify the voice and the tone that you typically use, and then it's going to give you a suggestion around what it believes your tone is. And then you can say, yes, no, I agree, I disagree, things like that. So I encourage you to check that out as well.
That's perfect. Thank you. You're the man with the guide for everything, which is
I
fabulous.
try.
But and I think, you know, to very quickly pick up on one of the points that Berenice has made in the chat, she says, same, I asked for an output in table form in ChatGPT, and it did the first half in the table, but not the second. And I guess that's a little bit about what you're speaking about here as well, which is that conversational element. And I'm not saying this will solve it necessarily, because these tech are far from perfect, but like, you go, no, that's not right. You know, you need the second half in the table or whatever it may be. Hopefully that would help, Berenice. I don't know for sure, you know, but like these conversational platforms hopefully would get it. Let's go into the next question, because you've been fabulous so far. You're so practical, mate. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
The question says, when will big multi-million-dollar brands be able to use AI for their video ads without having to worry about IP and the reliability of their content, of the content?
Yesterday. So they were allowed yesterday. It is happening. Toys R Us, which I don't know if it's
Yeah,
in
saw the ad.
UK, but they ran an ad which was essentially 100% created using artificial intelligence, where they told the story of the founder being a kid, falling in love with a giraffe stuffed animal, and then turning that into Toys R Us as we know it today. And then it was a launch of Toys R Us inside of Macy's or something like that. So billion-dollar brands using AI to tell this story. There is nothing holding you back from leveraging these technologies today to create video content and running ads with them. It's happening. I would be very, very surprised if come the Super Bowl, one of the top ads is created 100% with AI in 2024, 2025. I'd be very surprised if that didn't happen. So when it comes down to it, the question becomes, what about the legalities, et cetera? You have to be careful what AI tools you're using. Each AI platform has its own rules and regulations around how it's creating video content and what it's been trained on. Some of the most trusted sources would be places like Adobe, who has very strict licensing agreements with publishers and media properties and media entities to ensure that every video that they create in their suite is built off of IP that they control and that they have a license agreement to, so you can use it as you wish. That all said, there are constraints that happen when you have those types of agreements and you actually follow the law, right? Like your content and stuff isn't always going to be that good. You can't go to them and be like, hey, can you create something with Ryan Reynolds and get Ryan Reynolds? It's not going to happen. But you can if you use some of the more scrappy startup video AIs that are coming up from the abyss, so to speak, because they're training on everything. So I wouldn't recommend a multi-billion-dollar company use those tools because of the risk. But if I was in the seat, I would 100% be looking at leveraging the technologies that are coming out of the more established creative platforms like Adobe, and using those.
Love it. Thank you. And Karen has popped some examples of different platforms which enable you to
Love it.
to create on. So I'm going to pop it in there just because Karen has popped it to host and panelists in this case. But thank you, Karen, for sharing that.
And I
And
think one of
likewise,
the things we did last time, and I had to do it again, was
no.
shared a song. I shared a song last time, which was about me being a marketing guru. So I've done it again. While we were here, I decided that I was going to make a song about this being my three-peat. And I was for a while. I don't know if it will be any good. I have not listened to it, but I've been using Suno, suno.com, to create songs, and it's wild. Within a matter of seconds, you can just give it a prompt, it will create music. And this one's a country track, so again, I haven't listened to it. I don't know.
The last one was really good. The last one was amazing. The fact you've been doing it again, that's incredible. Let's head to okay, we've got Kerry saying, oh my god, this is awesome. So we're doing all right. So the next question, is the upgrade to ChatGPT 4 worth it? From a member of the community.
The upgrade is 100% worth it. It should pay for itself. I honestly believe that for anyone who uses it, this tool should pay for itself in the matter of weeks, days, even, right? Like, and the reason why you can make it pay for itself is you get the most valuable thing in life back, time. And if you get your time back, then you are getting ROI out of the asset, whether you're employed or not. It's like if you get more time back, that might mean that you can get off earlier on the weekend. That might mean that you can finish your tasks earlier. That might mean, if you're self-employed, that you can do more, get more capital, get more revenue, blah, 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 all those different things. You can get a promotion, all that stuff. So to me, it's 100% worth it. Back in the day, when I first got into the world of advertising and marketing, my like cheat code was finding out that you can go on sites like Fiverr and have people debug things for like $5. And I was like, oh, if anybody at the company needs something debugged, just come to me. And I was willing to use my own $5 to pay for that because I looked so good in front of everybody else. AI is that again, where you are able to do things faster than everyone else around you and unlock some amazing returns. So I encourage people to do it.
Nice. Fabulous. Thank you. And folks, I can see that we've got Vanessa, James, and Anonymous who have contributed the questions to the Q&A. I just want to put a pin in it. I've noticed that, and we will get to additional questions as we get towards the end of the session. If you've got questions that come in that you'd like answered in today's session, pop them in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to cover off after we've covered the most frequently asked questions from the community today. So next question, what advice would you give to graduates or people starting in the industry who are competing against the roles AI can support?
Yeah, you have to recognize that like you are at a disadvantage. Let's just accept it. You're at a disadvantage because the AI technology has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of insight. So how can you compete with it? You don't. You just augment yourself with it. You become better than everybody else who's sitting on the sidelines ignoring it by embracing these technologies. You go deep, though, in one area where you can specialize. So there's this concept called the T-shaped marketer, where you essentially have enough to be deadly across a bunch of things. So you're a little bit good at content, a little bit good at SEO, a little bit good at PPC, but you're really, really good at content repurposing, let's say, and you go super deep into that. You're good at repurposing for TikTok, repurposing for X, repurposing for LinkedIn. You can repurpose content across any different channel. If you can become excellent at that one thing, and you can layer AI on top of that one thing, you're going to be ridiculously valuable for the rest of your career. Now, here's something to keep in mind. The T-shaped marketer covers true practical skills as marketers. I believe we have to evolve the T-shaped marketer a bit and put like a whole nother group of traits at the bottom that are ridiculously important. And those are things like being a good teammate, being good with verbal communication, being curious, being good at managing budgets, like the soft skills, so to speak, right? And when you can start to build those things, with a deep understanding of something and sprinkle AI all over it, I believe you're going to be unstoppable. So yes, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there in the industry of marketers aren't going to get a good shot and juniors aren't going to get a good shot, etc. The cat's out of the bag, folks. Life goes on. The the future is coming and the future is here. So you can only make one of two choices. Either you sit back and you complain and you say like this AI thing's hurting my career, my path, etc. Or you can say this AI thing is here and I'm going to do something about it, aka I'm going to apply it to myself and I'm going to try to get better. Or you can take a whole different ballgame and be like, look, I'm realizing that this thing is changing the way that this world works, this industry works. I'm going to become in the wonderful world of blue collar work because everybody's still going to need their sink fixed. Everybody's still going to need their roof fixed. And you just get out of the industry entirely. I'm cool with that too. But at the end of the day, AI is going to fundamentally change marketing. It's going to make it much more difficult for junior folks to get in. And the best way to get in is to focus on filling out that T and then building that foundation with like the soft skills as well. And that's just not sugarcoating it. That's the only way to do it in today's market.
Thank you, mate. I think there's something to it's easy to give an easy answer sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's harder to give the harder answer by definition. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go to the next question. So acknowledging the stuff about IP that we've spoken about already today. The next question comes in from a member of the community who asks, for visuals, can you send it a reference and say a cross between these two styles, please?
Yeah, you can. I love this use case. So with AI, you're able, with ChatGPT or Claude today, you're able to upload visuals and graphics and imagery and ask it to bring to life anything that you can imagine. And this is the most magical thing with AI today, in my opinion. As an example, one thing that folks in the US do a lot is they wear like the American flag everywhere. It's all on their t-shirts, it's all on their hats, it's everywhere you go. And I was like, that's kind of a US thing. But I wonder what like a Canadian who loves their Canadian flag so much would have for a jacket. And I was like, ChatGPT, here's a picture of an American wearing all their stuff. Here's a picture of a very cool jacket that was just like a varsity style. What would a Canadian version look like? And within the matter of seconds, ChatGPT analyzed two images, identified and did research on nuances about Canada. So they picked up the Canadians like hockey, the beaver, all of this stuff, the maple leaf, red and white. They picked all this up. And then they created, in my opinion, one of the coolest jackets that I have ever seen. And it was like this black jacket that had the big Canada flag. It had like people playing hockey on it. It was awesome. It was amazing. And I was able to do that in the matter of seconds. So why does this matter for marketers? In the past, I would have had to hire a designer. I would have had to hire probably a creative director and somebody to lead the project. I would have had to hire an illustrator or someone to go out and create that content. Now I can go to ChatGPT, upload two visuals of reference, use my own creativity and imagination to say what I'm wanting and hoping for, and it will give it back to me. Now, I know 100% that some of you might be thinking that's horrible for the designers. It is. But you know what else was horrible? It was horrible when we automated the bowling alleys that started to take the jobs of the people who used to set up all the pins at the back of the bowling alley. That was horrible too. But we continued and we evolved, and now nobody thinks about those jobs anymore. I'm not saying designers are going to vanish because I still think taste is important. I think designers have a key role in the marketing function, but things change. And for marketers to be able to mock up ideas, to be able to mock up a quick website, to mock up a graphic and add a visual in the matter of seconds, to remove a background with the click of a button instead of now having to get a graphic, somebody on their graphic design team to remove the background. Like all of these things can now be done in the matter of seconds. The productivity and efficiency gains are wild. And we need to embrace them. We need to celebrate them. We need to use them. And if we are the folks who are having our work, like in many ways, changed and evaporated because of it, let's start thinking about where they show up in a way that is more meaningful for our companies, for our teams, for our organizations, so we can all win. We all want to provide a livelihood and do our work that we get passionate about. We do have to think differently because the change is here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, mate. Let's head in. You were referencing, in fact, the chat have been referencing while you've been speaking through that answer right now, asking about courses and
Mm.
resources and places where you go to learn. So I'm going to skip ahead a few questions because it's pertinent to the folks asking in the chat right now, people like Cicely, Donna,
Cool.
Vanessa, and Zoe.
I
So
love.
where do you go to stay on top of the latest tech in this area,
Yeah.
where there's sort of less noise and more sort of practical, grounded stuff that's actually useful?
Yeah, so there's a few places that I go on a regular basis to kind of get my insight and info. The first thing that I do is it's boring to most people, but like I'm on X all the time still, like subscribing to people who have podcasts and who have content that are on the topic of AI. So I follow those individuals on a regular basis. I go into the subreddits that are dedicated to artificial intelligence. So I spend a lot of time in there. I'll send one of the subreddits. Let's see. There it is. So ChatGPT, their subreddit itself is gold. I spend a lot of time in there. There is a subreddit that's dedicated to AGI as well, which is fascinating. So I spend a lot of time in that. I also follow Brittany Mueller. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Brittany and her work, but she's a brilliant mind in the wonderful world of AI. So I follow a lot of the stuff that she does. We created a course on AI, so it's called the AI Marketing Console that we keep active all the time. That folks can definitely check out. It gets updated. We provide a bunch of like tactical resources on how to use it, how to leverage AI. There's a few newsletters that I subscribe to, and I'm trying to pull them up. That's why I'm looking over here. That are absolutely brilliant and add a lot of value to my inbox on a regular basis. But for some reason, I am not seeing them show up right now in
Well,
my
let
inbox.
me answer Katya's question in the chat while you're looking, because it's Brittany Mueller, and she has recently released a course, I think,
Yeah,
called I think it's called AI for Novices. I can't quite remember. Maybe I'm misquoting that. But likewise, Heather Murray is another great source, who sort of does AI for non-techies. Who's another fabulous person to follow. And thank you, Catherine, for popping in the chat feature right there.
awesome.
Brittany's
Yeah, and
information.
I would encourage folks to check out the Facebook groups. Like there's Facebook groups that are dedicated to AI that I would encourage people to check out. Like you can get a lot of value out of those. There's I find that communities are one of the best places to go. When you can find a few communities where your ICP are spending time and or not even your ICP, just people in general are talking about this stuff. That's a gold mine for finding great content.
Well, and have you, I mean, in terms of finding these folks, I mean, with the example of the Facebook groups, are you literally just popping into the
I
Facebook
do.
search feature,
Yeah,
you know,
so I do,
AI?
but there's also one other item that I do that's a little bit of interesting. So, like, there's communities where you'll find people who are um, specialized in a certain thing in AI. So I would go to a Facebook group and type in like AI writers or Jasper. And then I would find the community where a bunch of people are using Jasper. And then I join that group and start to just follow the conversations or ChatGPT power users, find those ChatGPT power users and then connect with them and like learn what they're talking about and use that as like an insight around like how I should approach things. One of the other newsletters, I found one is called the Neuron Daily. So I'm subscribed to that one and get a ton of value out of their newsletter on a regular basis. I find it to be very interesting, very practical. Um, Lots of value comes out of that one. Uh, there's there's also a one called Next Tool AI. So Next Tool AI is a newsletter that essentially keeps you in the loop on all the different tools that are valuable. It gives you some examples of good prompts, how to write them, things like that. I would say check out Foundation. We publish a lot of content on this stuff as well, so subscribe there. Um, And then I'd also throw one other piece, which is twofold. Another one is called AI Valley. I get a lot of value out of that. And then the other thing would be sign up for the newsletters of these various AI tools. So sign up for the HeyGen AI newsletter. So HeyGen is a AI tool that I'm a big fan of and have talked a lot about. I ran an experiment. I'll talk about this for a second. So HeyGen is the wildest AI that I think I've actually come across in my life.
A little bit scary.
It, so I ran an experiment last week where I took two videos and I wanted to, I'm going to show it to you all. I'll share it as well. So I took two videos. I looked into this camera, this exact same setup, and I said, in the future, you're not going to know what's real and what's fake. And then I got HeyGen. I uploaded my transcript from that video to HeyGen and I got it to record the same thing. Then I uploaded those two videos and I asked my community, the people who I'm connected with, which one is me? And literally, almost no one got it right. Everyone thought that the AI version of me was the real version of me. So I'll share it in the chat. Here's the link to it. You're all probably kind of in a state where you're not going to anymore see like, you're probably not at a state where you'll be like, number one is not Ross because I've given away the spoiler, but like people couldn't figure it out. And I encourage you to check it out. Now, I see a comment about the accents. Good point. Here's the thing though. With HeyGen, you're able to integrate it with 11 Labs. And 11 Labs is an audio AI tool that I use to replicate my voice because it doesn't pick up the abouts. It's like doesn't get the Canadian thing if you use HeyGen's like their native one. So I encourage people to use 11 Labs. It's a great tool. I had a list of like the top 80 audio AI tools that I use. Just shared that in the links below. And 11 Labs is number one for me. It picks up the Canadian accent. It's gold. It's a beautiful tool. I highly encourage you to check it out. Where was I going with that? Oh, subscribe to tools newsletters, and they'll give you updates. Now, one last thing that I just started to figure out, and I haven't spent as much time there because I am a busy person. But if I was new in the world of business and marketing and just getting into this, I would spend every day in the OpenAI community. The OpenAI community is a wild opportunity. I built my entire career off of communities. Early days, I went into growthhackers.com, inbound.org, Traffic Think Tank, all these little places where marketers were spending time, and I added as much value as I could. If I didn't have a bunch of like other priorities and 3 kids, I would be in this community every single day answering questions and learning from people who are playing with this technology. They have an entire section on prompting where people are just like having conversations about what a good prompt looks like, how should you be prompting, all of these things. Absolute gold, folks. Again, I know I'm getting really tactical here, but like if you go into that community and you sort the content by top posts, you can find some ridiculously valuable insights around how people are writing great prompts, all of those things. To the next comment, how do you deal with the overwhelming amount of information? You just exist overwhelmed. You just exist.
Embrace the overwhelm.
Embrace it. Yes.
I love
You
that.
kind of do. You kind of just have to embrace the overwhelm. No, this gets like into a professional question and dialogue, but like I think you just have to figure out a way to turn off. Like you just have to be okay with figuring out your own personal ways of turning off. And for everybody, that's different. Some of us have forced reasons to turn off, aka crying babies and stuff like that. That's a great way for me. But if you took me back into my 20s, the only way I would have turned off would have been if I had like activities and things like that on the go.
Pickleball.
Yeah, exactly. I probably would have played pickleball. Back in my 20s, I was playing dodgeball. Yeah, you want to find something to keep your mind off of it and just go from there. But yeah.
100%. Well, we got Demi in the chat saying you just exist overwhelmed. I feel seen, and we've got Martine saying winging it, and you know, like that's fabulous. You know, I mean, I think we can all relate to that. We're starting to get to a point where, with the questions that we've taken from the community, that we're starting to sort of, I think we've covered quite a lot of the ground. But there is one more sort of section of questions
Mm.
which sort of sits around uh, the transparency of
Right.
creating stuff using AI, um, when to use things that have been created by AI, whether you have to disclose, that something has been used by AI, and when something that has been created by AI, which ultimately combines an amalgamation of sources, at what
Mm.
point that becomes quote unquote original.
Right.
Um, and so there's about 4 questions here, verbalized in different ways to that theme. Where do you sit presently on that sort of disclosure point and that
Yeah.
originality point, when it comes to content creation using these means?
Yeah. I stand on the point of the only moment in which disclosure should be a requirement is if it's is a few areas in which disclosure makes sense to me. One is if you are taking on the likeness of another person or using the audio voice of another person, and you're making them say things that are not like actually have ever come out of their mouth. And I'm not talking about you as yourself, but other people. If you're using someone else's likeness, someone else's voice, then I think there should be a level of disclosure. But in all other circumstances, for the most part, I think it's fine. And the reason why I think it's fine is because like we don't have to disclose when we use spell check. We don't have to disclose when we use Grammarly. Right now, as we're sitting here, there's probably an AI that is touching up our faces. You probably always look this good, but like there's probably it's like scanning my face and like making sure that my complexion is right. I don't think I need to disclose that. I also don't even know if it's happening. And you probably don't either. So like elements of it, I don't think need to be. Um, I think if you look at it, it comes down to your own personal choice, right? Like I think if you are going to be pressing publish on written content that is assisted with AI, like you don't need to. But if it is completely AI, then I think it might be a good call. And I think that's the difference, right? Like to me, the level of disclosure should be capped at um, the level in which you use AI to create a certain thing. So if something is 100% AI developed, then sure, it's probably a good thing to disclose it. But if you use AI to fix some things and edit some things and modify some things, I don't think you need to disclose it. And at the end of the day, the reality is at a certain point, no one's going to know. You're not going to be able to tell. You can't tell today based off of, from my opinion, most people today can't tell what is a AI generated image versus what is a AI or a real photo that someone has taken. I've run the test multiple times. Gotten AI to take a picture of a burger. Which one is real? Which one is fake? No one knows. Which apple pie is real? Which one is fake? No one knows. Should you disclose it? I don't think so. I don't think so. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. It's like a burger is a burger, and if we perceive it as a burger, then it's a burger. So I don't think it matters that much.
Nice. And there's such a bevy of, I think folks are figuring this out as well. So James has popped in the chat. He says University of Cambridge social team put out a good document process on their use and disclosure and on AI on their work. But I wonder if this stuff will keep changing as tools get more ubiquitous. I remember Nicole, who was one of our other speakers in the AI season, who's actually in the chat today,
Mm.
was a big proponent and put together an AI policy as well. So for your company and organization, and you referenced that at the beginning of today's
Yeah.
session, that
Yeah.
different companies are going to approach it differently. And so, it's an interesting thing. And I think even I want to pick up on Mary Rose, who speaks to EU AI acts and stuff like that. So this is such a fast moving pace.
It is.
But it's it's great to have your perspective on that. So thank you, mate.
Yeah. And I think it's
Um,
like one of the things that's interesting is like I do think legally there's going to be more and more restrictions that come out that take Some are going to be for the right purposes, but I think some are going to actually have a negative impact on innovation at large. But I think there is positives that can come out of it, like the legislation that recently came out that said like you can't use a dead artist's like sound and likeness without connecting with like their estate and getting their sign off. I
Mm,
think that makes a lot of sense.
mm,
I think it makes a lot of sense that we own our own likeness. Some people are already licensing their likeness on tools like HeyGen. Fascinating times to be alive, right? Like those are things that people can do right now.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see like how it all comes to life. But I love the fact that governments are thinking about it, that they're talking about it. Yeah, it's important.
absolutely, 100%. And that's we're figuring out this stuff together, which is
Yeah.
exciting. Let's head into the live Q&A because there's 10 open questions right now I can see from folks. And so I would encourage folks to give a thumbs up to any questions that you like in the Q&A, just to make sure that I prioritize those in the last 7 minutes that we've got. By the way, thank you, Ross, because I mean, this is a marathon, moving your headspace from one place to another.
No
So thank you
no
first and
worries.
foremost for the mental agility, but also the practicality. I think there was a big comment earlier in the chat feature who said, "We love tactical." So you've delivered that. I don't think we've
Cool.
ever had so many resources delivered in a single session. So this question comes in from Vanessa, who this was around the point earlier on where you were speaking about prompting and improving the output from your ChatGPT or Claude. And you mentioned about uploading documents to these platforms where eventually your output would become better.
Right.
And so Vanessa asked, I worry about uploading my own content to GPT or Claude, even if it's not private. Can you trust the don't nick my stuff setting, or am I being overly cautious?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you can trust it. I think if there is ever any type of sign that the AI tool is then passing it off to other people, then I would say I would be very, very likely to say, "Welcome to the class action lawsuit, and buckle up, you're going to get paid." So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. But if you were that nervous, then I would advise that you don't use Claude or ChatGPT, but instead maybe just go and find an open source LLM. It's a little bit more technical and will require a little bit of work, but you can install these types of things directly on your own desktop now and run it on your own servers, on your own systems, and own all of the data, so you don't have to run into the potential risk that you're talking about. So I would do that. And I would also look at tools like Jasper, because again, like with those, they have kind of in their terms of agreement that they're not going to pass your information off to other people. I'm going to go real fast because we have a lot of questions and I want to see if we can get this done. So that would be my thoughts there.
Nice, perfect. Thank you, mate. Let's take the next one from James, because I think we have already spoken about AI's impact on the job market. So I just wanted to acknowledge Berenice's question, because I think that speaks to that. But because we've already spoken about it, I think we'll move to the next question, which comes from James.
Yeah.
So James asks, how do you communicate the value of AI tools to quote unquote AI Luddites, those who are skeptical or critical of the technology, think it can't be trusted, etc., etc.?
Yeah. So it's better to always show than to tell. And my way of communicating the power and the value of AI tools would be to show them how it can be used to do things much more fast, much more efficiently, more effectively, etc. And if that still doesn't work, then I would show them through journals and papers. And there's tons of documentation that exists online where studies have been done that show that using AI has had a increase in productivity within the white collar world, but also within hospitals, within radiology rooms, within a lot of different spaces. And if the people are still Luddites after seeing that AI is able to identify cancer before a human eye, then you probably should find some different people to work with, because like the reality is this technology is saving more lives. It's giving us the ability to do more things, and it should have the same impact on a marketer. If a doctor can use AI to be a better physician and doctor and deal with health, then we can probably do the same thing when we're moving pixels around on a computer screen. And that would be my conversation with them.
Nice. I love that. And one Surat has put in the chat, definitely show not tell. So I think that's wonderful advice. So thank you. The next one, much like the favorite sources question, could be quite a long answer here, but the question comes in from Anonymous, who says, what are the best free tools beyond ChatGPT?
Ooh, good one. There's not a lot of them are paid to play. Like the only free tools that I would advise and be able to strongly recommend would be like the ones that you have to know a little bit of code to use. It's like you have to install it on your own systems. Nothing is Anything that is free is probably taking your data. Um, I would be very scared to use the free things unless it's ChatGPT. You can have fun with things like Grok, which is built into X.
Yeah.
Uh,
But even then, that's like a subscription, isn't it? You know, so that, I mean, but I think
Sure,
that's
that's a
actually,
subscription too. You're right.
to be fair,
Um,
that's probably a really solid principle bit of advice there, you know, which is a reminder that if you are getting it for free, you are probably the product.
you're the product,
As
100%. Yeah,
uh,
100%. Yeah.
so yeah, great point, and thank you for that, because I think it is a really solid reminder. And um, you know, it's worth reminding or thinking, at least with the likes of GPT, you know, I think it's $20 a month or £20 a month. I can't
Right.
quite remember.
Yeah.
So you'd hope that within that it's relatively accessible. I appreciate not accessible for everybody, but
Yeah.
as a starting place, that gives you access to a whole bunch of things, and then everything else sort of starts to become a bit of an add-on from that point, from my perspective, at the very least.
100%.
Um, as we head towards the end, Ross, I mean, like, you're going to need to lie down after this.
No, sure.
uh, but let's go to this last one from Martine, who asked the question, and this is a far more personal reflection on AI. But Martine asks, how do you get over the feeling of almost cheating using AI, even if you're not using everything that AI gives you, but rather getting ideas from it?
Yeah. Um, I think you get over it by recognizing that it's um it's not that I don't view it as cheating. I view it as a augmentation of myself and a partner, right? So like if you view it as a person, let's pretend it's a person and you're the conductor. You're essentially just delegating tasks and you're getting someone to help you with tasks. And we wouldn't view that as cheating. We would view that as a good collaboration between you and someone else. Um, and I think with that mindset and perspective of I'm going to use AI as an intern, I'm going to use AI as a brainstorming partner, then it's no longer cheating. And my biggest mental framework around this is that if you use a calculator in business, are you cheating? If you use Excel in business, are you cheating? No. I think you're just using a tool to your advantage to get to where you want to be. And to me, that is perfectly okay. Um, if you went back into time 15 years, 20 years, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would have wished that they could have this technology right at their fingertips. And we have it. So why not use it? At the end of the day, time is going to go on whether we like it or not. And our competitors are using it. People that were going after similar jobs for are using it. So it's an equalizer that we should all embrace, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. And there's a great chat comment that came here from Bizhan, who says, maybe a parallel from the art world. Did the first photographers feel like cheaters versus a painter? How would that have changed over time? You know, and it's a
Wow.
really nice analogy actually there. So thank you for contributing that. And Martine says, such a good answer. I feel more at ease. Thank you. So that's a lovely way to bring to a close a blooming roller coaster of a session. Ross, I mean, thank you for spending the time with us, for doing the hour, and working between so many different topics in so many different spaces. That was really, really fabulous. And as Vanessa says, I've grown very skeptical of webinars lately, but that was a ton of fun, and I appear to have about 20 tabs to investigate afterwards. So thank you for making it available. So you're very welcome. But thank you, Ross, because you're an absolute legend. And if you would like to connect with Ross, then the QR code is right up there right now to say thank you. And I hope your inbox is full for many, many days on LinkedIn with people saying thank you, because you deserve it. Also, a big thank you to our featured sponsor for today. They are Frontify. Again, if you would like their report on AI and creativity, then the QR code is right there, and we'll also put in the follow-up email. And a big thank you to Frontify, Exclaimer, Sticky Beat, Planable, Cambridge Martin College, and Redgate for bringing today's session. And finally, next week, we're heading into a brand new season where we're going to be asking non-marketers to speak to our marketing community about the things that they wish we knew as marketers about their roles, the key concepts, and how we can work with them best. So next week is all about finance, which is wild for our marketing community, but I think a lot of fun. Ross, you're a hero, mate. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you to everyone in the community for such a wonderful session. And yeah, as you say, Ross, how do you know this wasn't my AI here? We don't. But you're a legend. All
Someday.
right.
Appreciate you, Joe. Thanks so much. Thank you,
Cheers,
everyone.
mate.
Have a great
Take
one.
care.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.